Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So I'm going to try a short video to explain this fatwa, and this fatwa is related to the claim that if human evolution is true and our lineage goes back to Adam alayhi salam, but it also goes back to the common ancestor species, then the Quran and the Sunnah does not have anything to negate it, and the tawakkuf is allowed. Now, this opinion is made famous by two individuals in particular, Dr. Malik and Jalajel, and this fatwa is against their opinion. So the fatwa is issued by Darul Ifta wal Irshad, Yas'alunak, and the stamp here is from Mufti Uwais Pasha and also Mufti Ehsanullah Shaikh. And these are well-known muftis in Karachi. The fatwa is not on the website yet, but it will be uploaded. But it was given to me because I was the questioner. So a brief summary of the question that I asked the ulama, the muftis, that if someone claims that Adam and Hawa were created without father and mother, that's not a problem. But their progeny then mixed with the humans, the evolutionary quote-unquote humans, and he claims that there is nothing in the Quran or Hadith that negates it, so it's silent. So tawakkuf is justified. That is what the claim is. So my question was very specific. Is this a bad aqidah, or is really Quran and the Sunnah silent on the matter? And then I give my side of the little bit of argument for the ulama to see if it's valid. That it appears that this claim conflicts with the verse of the Quran, خَلَقَكُم مِّن نَفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ, because if the lineage mixing is allowed, then we go back to more than one nafs. That is the gist of the matter. So in this video, we're going to go through some fawaid also, which might be interesting for people as far as the hermeneutics go. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So this is the verse here. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة. O men, fear your Lord who created you from a single soul. The problem and how Jalajel explains this verse is part of the pages. This is from Dr. Malik's book, and this is Jalajel's explanation. So his explanation of the verse is that what the verse necessitates us to believe is only that people from the time of revelation onwards can, with certainty and without exception, trace themselves back to single soul. What does that mean? Well, what means, what Jalajel mistakenly thought, and it's a mistake, that if he just reinterprets an-nas and ya ayyuhan nas, O men, the address here, to mean the human beings present at the time of revelation and the future, means 7th century onwards, then he can claim that only these people have to be Adamic and the people before them may not be Adamic. But that is a side point. The main reason why the lineage mixing runs into the problem is because of the word wahida here. And if you want to appreciate what's the problem with his exegesis, what I would like you to do is to pretend that this word does not exist and ask Mr. Jalajel and Dr. Malik, does that affect their exegesis at all? The answer is no. Why? Because their exegesis completely ignores this word. Now, I have some pages, printouts to explain what's the problem. This is the classical opinion and the true opinion and the correct opinion, and the opinion about which Imam al-Razi says there's no shak on this opinion. It's certain. This is the aqidah of Ahl-Sunnah. What is this point? This is something that all the verses and the hadith almost in one-dimensional fashion, they affirm this topology that Hawa was created from Adam, and from the two of them, all the humanity came forth. So all of the human beings can trace themselves back to one nafs, which is Adam, because all of them are Adamic at the end of the day. Now the lineage mixing looks like this. We go, the evolution thing is coming there, okay? Adam comes in the middle, so now we are created from Adam and also non-Adamic nafs here. Also here maybe, but at least two or more. So the problem obviously comes is that this is a hard contradiction with the verse. Now people may say, oh, what's the evidence? Look, the evidence I have is this page. Now this shows Eve is not created from Adam. She's an independent Eve who's created from clay. This opinion was held by a lone Mu'tazilite, not even all Mu'tazila, but one Mu'tazili held this view. So this was basically, it came under discussion, and the first one to reject it, according to what I can find on the record, was another Mu'tazilite scholar named Qadi Abdul Jabbar. He rejected this view of an independent Hawa. Why? Because he said that, look, it would contradict min nafsin wahida, and we will not be from a single soul, we will be from two souls, or two beings. After Qadi Abdul Jabbar raised this contradiction, Ar-Razi narrates this contradiction. He agrees with that. And any exegete who discussed this issue agreed with the contradiction, including Abu Hayyan, for example, Muhyiddin Sheikh Zada, and maybe up to Alusi. Anyone who discusses this agrees with the contradiction with the verse. So obviously the question arises, you have this view, and then you have this view. What is the difference between them as far as violating min nafsi wahida goes? The fact of the matter is that there's no difference, because here also you have two nafs, and here also you have two nafs independent. So if the contradiction is raised, then on this scenario, and we have precedence that the contradiction was raised, then the contradiction is also raised over here. There's no reason to let it go. Tayyib. So we can objectively say that the zahir of the verse خَلَقَكُم مِّن نَفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ negates lineage mixing, and we can also say that if you were to affirm physical connection with Adam alayhi salam, then the word wahid kicks in and it negates the lineage mixing, and the Jalajel's exegesis here is wrong, because he affirms the physical connection, and if you affirm the physical connection, then the lineage mixing goes away. So that's the gist of the matter. Is there any other hermeneutical route out of this contradiction? Well, Imam al-Razi, first of all, he affirms the contradiction, but then he says, well, the way to avoid this contradiction is not to go the sophistry route, which is to pretend that the wahid is non-effective, because that sophistry route is what is present in this book, where he affirms physical connection but still allows lineage mixing, and that's sophistry that just pretends that the word does not exist. Imam al-Razi does not do that. What Imam al-Razi says is that the way around the problem is to interpret this min in a non-physical manner. Meaning, if the min does not mean a physical connection, and it only means that in temporal sense our creation started with Adam alayhi salam, then our independent Eve scenario basically passes the contradiction in this verse. Now, does Jalajel's situation pass that contradiction? No. Still, why? Because in this view, at the very least, our creation started from Adam in temporal sense. So nafs wahida constraint is met in temporal sense. But in this picture, the nafs wahida, even in temporal sense, is not possible for Adam. So what is the workaround? The workaround is given by a short video clip of Maulana Osman Ali, where he proposes that if we take the temporal min in this verse, and we also pretend that the reality of humanity is a soul, and the humanity started with Adam, in that case, we might use the min of ibtida to affirm lineage mixing. Okay, let me repeat what's going on here. Maulana Osman Ali says that we can still affirm that humanity started from Adam, and these beings over here can be considered biological humans, but not humans in Islamic sense. Okay, so there they will still be able to claim tawakkuf. I don't know how, but they will still be able to do some gymnastics here and basically get out of the contradiction. But then what you have a problem with, and what I argued in the fatwa here, I argued that the physical connection in this verse cannot be negated because the mutawatir ahadith affirm it. Here's what I mean. With regards to men, we have three options. It means physical connection with Adam, or a temporal connection, or temporal sense, or temporal plus physical. So even if temporal meaning is affirmed on top of physical meaning, the contradiction still comes, because the reason why lineage mixing contradicts is because of the physical part here, right? And the mutawatir ahadith pin down the physical part here, pin down its meaning, okay? And because they pin down this meaning, we really cannot take this two route when we consider this verse in combination with the ahadith. Yes, if you take this verse alone, yes, this number two can get you out of the contradiction. But if you consider this verse with the ahadith, then this is not possible, because the ahadith pin down the physical meaning. And now you're going to ask me which ahadith pin down. So here is the Shar of Tahawiyya by Al-Imam Al-Qawnawi, which is recommended by Sayyid Anwar Shah Kashmiri rahimahullah. And here is its chapter Faslun fil Mithaq. This line is in the Aqeedah of Tahawiyya. وَالْمِيثَاقُ الَّذِي أَخَذَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى مِنْ آدَمَ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامَ وَذُرِّيَّتِهِ حَقٌّ. It's the text of Tahawi, so it's Aqeedah text. And it's related to the verse Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَإِذْ أَخَذَ رَبُّكَ مِنْ بَنِي آدَمَ مِنْ ظُهُورِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took, when your Rabb took from the Bani Adam, from the children of Adam, from their backs, their progenies. Okay, what does this verse mean? Imam Al-Qawnawi rahimahullah brings two opinions to this verse. The first opinion is the standard opinion, which is obtained from the ahadith, and he mentions two ahadith here. First one is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam, then he wiped his back and came and took out from him the progeny, and he said that I created these for Jannah, so they do the deeds of people of Jannah. Then he wiped the back again, and he took out from it the progeny, and he said that I created these for the Nar, and they will do the deeds of people of Nar. Now, and there's a second hadith, but overall you can count at least more than 10 different narrations, some marfu, some not marfu, so overall the hadith become mutawatir. But the main thing in these ahadith is that these ahadith mention the taking out from Adam alayhi salam, but the verse mentioned taking out from Bani Adam. So this is considered, let's say, that there is a apparent contradiction between the ahadith and the verse. So how to solve the contradiction, apparent contradiction, is to say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took out the dhurriyyah of Adam one after the other in the manner that they will procreate until the day of judgment. So what do we mean here? This would mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took out Eve from Adam, and from both of them their children, from their children until the day of judgment, and he took them out in one go. He took the oath from them, and then he put them back into the lines of Adam. And since that time, we are procreating in the same pattern, correct? That is the meaning of this qawl. The second opinion that Allama Qanawi brings is more figurative opinion, and Mu'tazila also take this opinion, that this event, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam, of taking out all these humans as particles and then putting them back after the oath, this did not occur. This is the Mu'tazili view, but Ahlus Sunnah do not believe that. The thing is, this qawl can also mean the taking out in this dunya, like in this world, the way I am I'm coming out from my father, and from me my children will come out. And and basically the covenant is a figurative thing for the fact that when a child grows up, then the dalail of the Tawheed and Rububiyyah are apparent. But there is a very important lesson that you can find in this discussion of Imam Qanawi rahimahullah. And that important lesson is that he says that the second opinion does not negate the first opinion. Why? He says that you can affirm both of them together. You can affirm the second opinion and the first opinion together, okay? And then he says that the Mu'tazila, their problem was that they thought that the first type of tafsir is irrational or it is not possible. And this becomes misguidance because this would necessitate denial and rejection of all these ahadith. So the important lesson that we get from this chapter of Imam Qanawi's book is that there can be secondary meanings of a text that Ahlus Sunnah affirm without rejecting the primary meaning, okay? But if you were to affirm the second meaning only to reject the first one, then you will be considered misguided. Because that is the essential difference between us and the Mu'tazila on this issue. We may affirm the second meaning, which is also the meaning of Mu'tazila, right? We may affirm that without negating the akhbar, without negating the ahadith. But the Mu'tazila, they will negate the ahadith. So this is a big difference. And the second thing is that both first and second opinions, they have the same position as far as our physical link with Adam goes. So that is established by both opinions, which means it's qat'i, like any opinion that you will bring for this event will force you to accept or force you to affirm that we were physically part of Adam. And these ahadith are mutawatir. So I have another Aqidah book here, which where is, yeah, this is At-Tamheed. So Abu Shakur al-Salami, he's also Maturidi theologian. He also has a section on Mithaq. And he says that the Mu'tazila and the Rawafiz, they believe that the taking of oath from bodies, this particle type bodies, is impossible. Okay, and the Sunnah basically affirm that this is established, and here he gives a very important dalil for it. He says that, look, the souls without bodies cannot be Bani Adam, because souls don't have any notion of Bani Adam or Dhurriya, and these notions cannot be affirmed for souls alone. They can only be understood in lineage sense. So that is Abu Shakur al-Salimi, which means that these mutawatir ahadith in multiple Aqidah textbooks say the same thing, which is that we were physically linked to Adam. And if these mutawatir hadiths force us to believe that we are physically linked to Adam, it means in this verse also we cannot negate the physical meaning. And if you cannot negate the physical meaning in this verse, the wahid will prevent lineage mixing. So, and also, if you want to include secondary meanings like temporal sense or like other meanings, you're free to do so as long as you don't negate the primary meaning that is affirmed through tawatur. So this is a very important point that I wanted to emphasize. Another thing, for example, one of the problem that these people they bring up is that they will give interpretations, alternative interpretations, which are valid, which can be obtained, which can be entertained, but not at the cost of negating the primary or the meanings that are proven through tawatur. For example, if you were to just affirm temporal meaning in addition to the physical meaning, we don't have a problem. But if you use temporal meaning to negate this meaning in this verse, then we have a problem, because it's obvious that you want to do it. You want to negate the physical connection in this verse because this verse contains the word wahid. And that basically throws a spanner into your tawakkuf claim. So be intellectually honest. So the second part, obviously, is also that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Hawa from the rib of Adam alayhi salam. So people say this hadith is weak, but it's also authentically reported, I think either in Bukhari or Muslim, that the woman is created from the rib of man. So that part is authentic, okay? And contrary to the popular misconception, the ahad reports can be considered in Aqidah. So here is again Abu Shakur al-Salimi's work. And you can see here he categorizes the ahad in three maratib, in three categories, okay? One thing he says that gets so popular and fuqaha accepted that they reach the level of tawatur. And no one among the companions basically negated. So this type of ahad basically it is it provides ilm, okay, and it's obligated to act upon it. And the one who rejects it basically is a sinner, is a misguided person who can be punished by the ruler. And some ulama even meant to say that the rejecter of such a narration can be kafir. Then he says the second type of ahad are those that the one who denies them is basically a sinner, but is not misguided. And the third type of ahad are those that the one who denies them is not even a sinner. So the stereotype type that Ash'ari and Maturidiyya do not accept ahad in Aqidah, it's not entirely true actually. So the narration in Bukhari and Muslim do say that the woman is created from the rib of man. And even if we were to interpret that hadith figuratively, that woman, her nature is like this, but she was not created from the physical part of Adam, we can also assert that that the meaning, the extra meanings that the ulama talk about, that Hawa was created from the same jins as Adam, or that it's figurative of her nature, or the nature of woman, that can be affirmed on top of the primary meaning that the Sahaba and Tabi'un all affirm, which is that she was created from the physical rib of Adam alayhi salam. So we will not grant these people this point. And lastly, Sheikh Salman al-Awda used to believe that, okay, I will try to find a citation, that even if you don't believe that Hawa was created from the rib of Adam, you still are forced to believe that she was created from a physical part of Adam, even if it's not rib, it could be something else, because of the verse. Now, this is what the fatwa says here. Okay, the standard view that we have, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Hawa from Adam alayhi salam, and from these two all the humanity sprouted forward. And the fatwa says that this is proven through the nusus and a number of misguided and some kufri. Okay, I'm not saying that Jalajel and Malik's views kufriya, but some others also hold kufri views, but there are misguided views or kufri views related to this issue, and all of these things are against the nusus of Quran and Sunnah, and they are rejected. Okay, and then at the end, the ulama also say that to protect the ummah and one's own self from these misguided views is obligation. Now, lastly, I would like to end the video by wrapping it up by saying that, look, guys, what is the evidence that I presented? I presented evidence from the Quran, number one, clear verse, and I've showed that Jalajel exegesis is very wrong because it does not consider the word wahid. That's the point, number one. The second thing that I did is that I presented the tafsir for that has been affirmed by Mufassirun against the Mu'tazilite view of independent Hawa, which also applies to the lineage mixing scenario over here. So this is a proof that what I'm saying against lineage mixing has precedence. Thirdly, I showed Aqidah books, okay, which contain this chapter, and it's part of the Tahawiyah, and there are so many shuru of the Tahawiyah, and everyone would have some explanation of this. And this is the standard explanation of Ahlus Sunnah, okay, that Imam Qanabi quotes here. Imam Baqillani also has the same explanation. Ar-Razi has the same explanation. This is part of our Aqidah. The Muslims study this Aqidah. This is part of the Aqidah, okay. And the question I ask is, look, we have Quran, we have Hadith, Mutawatir Hadith, we have Aqidah books, we have Tahawi. So what else is supposed to be the bar of Aqidah? What else? What is what you have presented, Mr. Jalajel? What is your argument, okay, against the overwhelming evidence of Quran, of Mutawatir Hadith, of Aqidah texts, okay, that Muslims have been studying and affirming for centuries, and the tafsir? What is your point? What do you have against it? You have against it 1 page and 2 pages of explanation, which does nothing. It is a contradictory explanation. So Mr. Malik's book might be good overview of evolution, but it fails to establish the most central part. Not only fails to establish, but it opposes the clear-cut nusus, and it's insufficient. Okay, so people should not think that this is a valid view, and the fatwa is very clear here. We'll wait for their response, but hopefully we'll be able to get more ulama to issue the fatwa against this belief, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the best. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.